application numbers on the team, that can be a bit awkward because it means you've got to cap someone, and if there's crossover, as you can see, that causes problems with reporting.
Hey everyone, this is Stephen. It's the 14th of December 2016 today, and by this time in December I'm usually still waiting to get the Christmas feeling, but it's come much earlier for me this year. I think that's probably due to the FlowXO video advent calendar that we're running. If you haven't seen any of those videos yet, we'll take a quick look at those in a few moments. I've said in webcasts for a few weeks now, this is a great time of year to be talking about bots. In a lot of cases, they're going to be used as a marketing tool in a retail context in the run up to Christmas, which is, of course, now only 14 days away. For now, an official welcome to FlowXO's Getting Started webcast will get you up and running with FlowXO with an introduction to its key features and benefits, specifically in relation to its push services for marketing, its messaging service for contacting human agents in real time, and how to collect data through a conversational form. If there's anything specific you'd like to see, just get in live chat now in YouTube, drop some notes onto Facebook, go to the FlowXO community later and add them there. If you don't know where that is, don't worry, I'll give you some links for that at the end. So usually at this point I like to look at a bot that's emerging that I really like, but instead today I'd like to draw your attention to the Christmas hoodie competition that we're running. So here's our YouTube channel, and you can see some of the associated videos which comprise the FlowXO video advent calendar spectacular. Here's our YouTube page. You probably want to subscribe to this if you enjoy this video and you want to see some of those other 5-minute videos that we're posting every day in the run up to Christmas. In each video, I'm giving out a single letter that forms part of a Christmas related word or phrase. Watch all the short videos to get the letters, combine them and send me over your guesses. The first correct answer will win the FlowXO hoodie. Okay, let's move on to FlowXO proper and getting started. So by this point you'll have signed up for a FlowXO account and connected up your messenger bot. Let us know if you're having any trouble with that, either right now in live chat, the support team will chat to you there and get you up and running, or pass us a note in the community. Just a quick reminder, what is FlowXO? Well, first of all, it's the future of business messaging, and I usually say it's just over my left shoulder, but today there's a Christmas tree there, it's over my right shoulder. In more direct terms, FlowXO is a complete platform for building, hosting and managing chatbots for messaging platforms such as Messenger, Slack and Telegram. It includes a visual editor to build bots without code. Everything is driven by a set of flows which you build with certain tasks. You can create and distribute your own bots, which are owned and branded by you, but controlled and hosted by FlowXO. I'm running this cast live so that I can maximize your time and provide everything you need to get started right in this session. Let us solve any queries or give any guidance you need right away. Again, there's live chat, so by all means get talking to the team and I over on the right of the YouTube window, or drop some comments onto Facebook. Down to business, let's go onto my desktop. So my example business for today is the Mortgage Store, who are the home of the Mortgage Bot. The Mortgage Store are a typical mortgage broker who are regulated to advise customers on mortgage loans, and they have a Facebook page in place. They have a range of products available: first time buyer, remortgage, buy to let or second home mortgages. Just a little bit more context, the Mortgage Store simply wants to communicate with customers better, provide a more engaging experience, divert basic queries away from the resource intensive phone line and ultimately write more business. If you got my email, you should have a bot in place by now, a Messenger open and ready to go, as well as Google Sheets, Gmail, and of course FlowXO. We'll take a closer look at that setup in a few minutes, but first let's dive in and take a look at our bot in action. I'm going to launch him here so that you can see clicking Get Started gives us a specific trigger to welcome new first-time customers. Here's Get Started. He's a bit sluggish today. There we go. So you can see here that clicking getting started there gives us a specific trigger to welcome new first-time customers right away. He's tried to get us on track by giving some option buttons. He's trying to fulfill his purpose right away. However, it's important that he can handle some basic conversation, so let's say hello. And you can see he wants to get right to the point again. He gives us some basic options right away, direct him to things we want him to handle. But I'm more interested in how he is. I'm going to be a little bit mischievous and type in a question rather than click an option he's given. Okay, so he can easily counter that, and he's constantly directing us back into the bot's purpose, which is the whole point of having the bot out there. It's really easy to set up this basic conversational chatter and capture any and all things that are thrown at the bot. We'll look at some flows in a moment so you can see how easy it was to put this together. First, let's have a look at some of those other options he's alluded to. First, let's assume that none of the options we have are immediately directly helpful, or that we're a little impatient, and remind ourselves again what all the options are. We'll ask help. And you can see here we're given a complete menu of possible options without any fuss. Okay, so let's subscribe to some content or updates we might want sending to us. I'll pick first time buyer. But actually, I'll realise that perhaps I picked the wrong product here. Perhaps I'm not a first time buyer. I'm just going to unsubscribe so that I'm not bombarded with updates I'm not interested in. So instead, what I am interested in is getting a quote. So I'm going to ask for a quote. And you'll see here, I'm actually falling back on some general helper text. This is a flow that still needs building. Now, I should probably tell the bot creator that's a problem. I'd like a quote, but for some reason I can't get one, and I want to get hold of a human. I'm asked what I'd like to speak to him about. And I'm given an indication when I'll get a reply. Now over in Gmail, if I imagine I'm the mortgage store here, I've just received an email saying that somebody would like some help, and this is the detail of their issue. I can then reply to that as the mortgage store agent. And over in Messenger, just give things a chance to percolate through. You'll see that I get a response directly into the Messenger channel, even though the agent sent it from Gmail. We'll look at how the FlowXO messaging service powers that option shortly, as well as resolving the issue with getting a quote. We'll build out a flow together to handle that, and we'll send some content to our subscribers. So now let's go and have a look about how we actually build out that functionality. Before we just go and do that, however, let's just take a closer look at the setup. I have FlowXO, of course. I've got Messenger, where we've launched our bot. I've got Gmail, where we interacted with the agent. And I've also got Google Sheets. You can see here that my sheet has a specific structure, and it's important that I've set it up this way before working with any flows. Just an idea of what's going on here before we get onto our flows proper. We have 3 sheets. The first is data to push. It's going to be the trigger sheet. Every time we put some information in this sheet, it's going to trigger our marketing messages through Messenger. We'll just need to put the correct content under the correct headings with a cut and paste. Our second sheet helps us do that. This is my staging area where I prepare the marketing messages I'll eventually want to send. I've made it easy to just cut and paste these pre-prepared messages in our future marketing sheet. You can see I have all the deals that I might want to communicate to customers here. The content is relevant to our scenario, but most important is the category column here, which is going to help us contact the right customers at the right time. The third sheet here is going to be used when we collect some data through a conversational form. We'll be building that flow to populate this sheet in real time just a little later. So here we are at the Flow dashboard. Just a quick shout out to this feature here. There's a referral link, and if you encourage your friends to use the platform via social media, you can earn rewards in the way of extra interactions and bots or flows. You can see here I've arranged my flows into folders. It's a great way of managing what the bot does and tweaking functionality, or for organising flows for different events or for different customers. So let's consider the flows we have and the ones we'll want to build. First, we're going to use FlowXO's push service to handle our marketing and deliver content to users in Messenger. We need 3 flows to handle marketing, and this is our first. When I set up this trigger, I'm only required to give one thing, the name of the push. This trigger acts as a receiver of data that will send from another flow. We need to name this receiver something sensible. Receive offers makes sense here because that's what it'll do. In this next action, I'm using the attribute service. Attributes can act like a counter, how many times somebody visited, or a flag. Somebody says a specific word. It's a simple key value store in the background. We're going to use it here to see if a customer is eligible to receive the manner of push we're sending each time this flow is run. They'll be eligible because they suggested a certain mortgage type when they subscribed. So we're going to get an attribute of the specific customer. They're uniquely identified by their response path. And we're interested in the customer's stored mortgage product preference, which we identified as category in our spreadsheet. Of course, we've yet to ask the customer what their preference might be, but we do know that it'll be one of our 4 options or product types: first-time buyer, remortgage, buy-to-let, or second home. So this might seem just a little bit counterintuitive at the moment, getting an attribute before we've set it, but it's important that we consider this flow first so that the receiver is in place and can be called from our subsequent flows. Lastly, in this flow, I'm then going to send a card. I'm going to send some rich content rather than a simple message. I just need to fill in these inputs with the data that I'll eventually receive from the push. You can see these outputs came directly from FlowXO. When we build our own flow in a few minutes, you'll see how easy that is. I needed to make sure that this send a card action was conditional, so that they only send content that's appropriate to the user, only content that's appropriate to the customer that's interacting with the bot. We do that by checking that the value of the attribute we got in the previous task isn't empty. That is, we've previously recorded this specific customer as preferring this type of offer. Filters are really important for controlling our flow. You'll see the call out there for any tasks that have a filter. You can put filters on any task to define simple logical comparisons. Just making this sure this workflow is on, and we're ready to move on to our next flow. So our next flow, we're now ready to get customers subscribed to the content we'll want to push out. First, we need a trigger based on something that's said to the bot. In this case, we're going to focus on the keyword subscribe. It's important to note that there's some fuzzy matching here. So this trigger will also function on the word unsubscribe, and meaning we can neatly accommodate both cases in one flow. Next, we're going to use one of FlowXO's helper tasks to manipulate the message that the customer gave us. This is important because we want to make sure we can filter some tasks later in this flow without worrying if there are any capitalized words given. Next, we'll ask a question. We're going to set the type as choice here. And our choices are going to be first time buyer, remortgage, buy-to-let, or second home. Of course, I want to filter this task as well, just so that we're not asking that question if people want to unsubscribe. Then we're ready to revisit our attributes. We're going to set an attribute for this particular customer, the name of the attribute being the answer to the question we just asked, which is the mortgage type the customer is interested in. Again, we're going to filter that action. Next, we need 2 push actions, one to subscribe and one to unsubscribe, which are filtered by the lowercase message we received. We're looking for the presence or absence of unsubscribe from the trigger. This is why it was important that I named my push in flow 1. And then similarly, we just need 2 filtered messages to confirm subscription or unsubscription to the customer, again filtered on the same test, the presence or absence of unsubscribe. Okay, on to our next flow. This is the exciting one where we get to see something happening. This flow is going to be called release offers. It's a simple flow that starts with a FlowXO service integration rather than a bot new message trigger. So here we're going to use Google Sheets as a trigger. You'll remember we looked at that sheet that we're going to use, the data to push sheet. And then we're going to send a push to the receiver that we set up in Flow 1. This is why, again, why it's important that we named it for identification here. And you'll see that all of these inputs here came directly from my trigger action, from my Google Sheet trigger. Just making sure all these flows are switched on, and we can check this out in Messenger. First, I need to make sure I'm subscribed. I'll click first time buyer. I'll get the confirm. Then over in my sheet, I'll go pick up my deal here and we'll paste it here. Back in FlowXO, just a note that these triggers aren't instantaneous, these service triggers like the bot new message trigger. We do have to wait for a sync. So we're waiting here for FlowXO to go and examine that sheet and see if there's any new data and then bring it back to FlowXO. So we've just got a short amount of time to wait for that to happen. In the meantime, we'll move on to our next flow. So now let's consider how we greet all new customers who are speaking to the bot for the first time. When we click Get Started, we saw that customized messages when we spoke to the bot for the first time earlier. And we also want to look at how we respond to anything that we don't generally understand. We do that with a catch-all trigger. We only need to say that this trigger is going to be active for all of our bots here. We don't need to give any other input because we're looking for everything that isn't captured by another trigger. Next, we're going to use the code service to get the first name of the user from the full name that Messenger provides to us. The code service is a really powerful way to do, well, whatever it is you want. It can make requests to other apps or services that FlowXO doesn't support. It can perform custom manipulation or calculations on data, and it can use the output in the conversation with the customer. We've used a really simple example here, but the options are limitless. If you want to interact with your CRM, your calling or dial system, or any other web-connected app, you can do it with this service. Be sure to talk to us to see how you can get the best out of it. Now we'll handle the greeting to brand new customers who are speaking to the bot for the first time. This action will of course be filtered. And a final point just on this action, when we set this filter, we also want to stop the flow if the conditions are met. We don't want to go any further in this flow. Assuming that's not the case, and as a precursor to our next flow, we're going to have a filtered message in place that we want to be said when we generally don't understand something during the flow of conversation. So we've come to two cases here. A brand new connection and a generally misunderstood message, which could have come at any point after start by clicking that Get Started button in Messenger. We're going to tackle this second case and feed into this final task in a flow called Chatter, which demonstrates some interoperability of these flows and handles the how are you type conversation that we looked at when we first launched the bot. We'll do that in just a second. Firstly, just to jump to Messenger, just to show our message from our Google Sheet, which has now been pushed out to the user. So now we'll look at giving some specific things to the bot to make it more conversational. You'll see how easy it is to scale these. After some simple conversation, we'll make sure we get down to business and redirect the customer to our intended process. Bots are fun, but they must be functional. We're going to trigger on new message here, and we're going to trigger on the phrase and keywords, hi, hello, how are, and again, really easy to scale. We could add as many of these keywords in or key phrases as we like. Next, we're going to use the same code service we saw before, here to get the person's first name. Then we'll send a basic message, assuming we're looking for how are. We need to make sure the filter here is that our original message contains the value how are. And finally, we're going to use send a message again, which is our general reply to hi, hello, etc. Again, the important thing to understand here is the interoperability of this flow with the catch-all that we have in place. With a few simple actions and a bit of thought, we can make the bot appear to respond quite intelligently, but all it took is these 4 simple actions, and then it falls back on the catch-all when it doesn't understand something. So let's start to finish off in terms of general conversation and correctly directing the user. Because we've overridden the keyword help with our catch-all, we need an independent flow to manage a direct request for help. We'll trigger on the keyword help here. And also the word menu, which is a common human request for basic inputs. We'll then send a message back to the customer who needs some specific help. And that gives us the direct menu options buttons we saw earlier when we were being a little impatient and querying the bot. So now into some more important features. Now that the bot is a little bit more built out in terms of general conversation, in this flow, the in-touch flow, we're allowing the customer to contact a human agent directly. We need to trigger on some common keywords and phrases that we've identified as a customer needing specific human help. I'm also triggering on the keyword reply. Just take special note of that. You'll see that when we have a conversation and we request human help, it's nice to be able to respond directly to the human rather than have a conversation with a bot. This will allow us to maintain the thread of conversation with the human. We'll then ask a question to get some more detail. You'll recognize the text here because it's what we were asked when we ran this through the bot. Then we'll use the messaging service to send the message to a human agent, just giving them a little bit of detail about what it is that the bot can't handle that the customer would like to speak to a human about. Finally, in this flow, we're just going to let the customer know that we've contacted the human and how long they're likely to be. Always good practice to keep the human up to date with what's going on in the background. So it's that easy to get the message routing in place we saw a few minutes ago when we complained that the bot couldn't get us a quote. We're going to use the messaging service again in a moment. It's a really powerful tool that makes bots better than any single AI. It has all the advantages of bots and human intelligence. Before we do, just a quick but important note to say that we've used Gmail here. But you can link up the messaging service to any address and route messages through Freshdesk, Help Scout, Salesforce Desk, or any other ticketing software for complete customer interaction management. So let's take this up a level and make it even more exciting. We'll put it into a sales context with a final flow, which we'll build out together called Get a Quote. So first of all, we'll trigger here on the keyword quote. Just turn the workflow on at this stage. We'll also then send a message directly to the user just to keep this interaction engaging. Next, we'll ask a question. We'll take the name that Facebook gives us. So we're going to ask for an email, so we'll validate their answer as an email. We'll ask another question. and we'll validate this as a number. We'll ask one final question. We're going to ask for the salary, so we'll just put a little emoji in here just to make the question a little bit more friendly, and we'll let them know that we'll keep the information confidential. I'm then going to use one of Floexo's helper services. I'm going to use the number service, and I'm going to perform a calculation, and I'm going to take the mortgage amount that we were given in the last question, the answer to the last question, and I'm going to times it by 4.5, which is a typical mortgage lending criteria. I'll then immediately send a message to the customer. Again, always important to make sure that we stay engaging. Always let the customer know what's going on. Just a note here that I need the result of the number operation. So I'm just going to pick that from the Floexo outputs. It's this result here from the number calculate action. The next thing I'm going to do is use Google Sheets. And this time we're going to add a row. We're going to add everyone to the new customer sheet. The name is given to us by Facebook. Their email was the answer to the first question. Mobile was the answer to the second question. Salary, answer to the third question. And mortgage amount was the result of our calculation there. Final thing I'm going to do, I want to pass this new hot lead that's filling out this conversational form directly to an agent. So I'm going to use the messaging service again. Send a message to email. It's a new hot lead, messages, new lead. We'll give their name so that we can address them. From Facebook, and we're interested in the value of the deal. So we want the mortgage amount, which was the result of our calculation again. Okay, so just to recap what happened here, just before we run this workflow, just before we run this flow, two things have happened here. We're going to pass the hot new lead into the Google Sheet that we set up earlier, the new customer sheet, so that we can trap all the leads that are coming to the bot. And the second thing we're going to do is we're going to pass the conversation off to an agent who can hopefully then go and close this deal right away. So again, just making sure this workflow is on. Let's go over into Messenger, and this time when we ask for a quote, I can fill in the details. Again, remember these answers are validated, so I can only give correct details. And I'm told that somebody will be in touch in a few minutes, but I'm also given an indicative quote, which is great. Over in our sheet, there's the new lead that we've just added. And over in Gmail, after a few minutes, we'll get another message about this hot new lead. We can always go and check the logs just to make sure everything went through nicely. It did in this case, so we're just waiting for Gmail. And there it is. We've got a new lead. This is their name. This is the value of the deal. I'll respond here. And hopefully, as the agent now, I'll be able to close this deal by communicating with the customer directly in the messenger channel. So here you can see we have the basis of a really good bot. We have some marketing functions in place, and we're able to point out options to a brand new customer right away, and we can respond when we don't understand a particular message. We've also looked at data collection and configuring human interaction directly through the bot with a messaging service, both very powerful customer service and sales tools. So this is it, crunch time. I hope you've seen how easy it is to get started, and you have some of your own ideas about what you'd like to build next. Here's what pricing looks like. For only $19 a month, you can build 15 bots or flows and accommodate 5,000 interactions. There's no contract or tie-in period, and you can downgrade to a free plan at any time. Because you've been kind enough to watch today, I'd like to sweeten the deal. Here are some links to all the flows that we've built out today, so you can take those links and install them in your account right away. To get them all in place and up and running, you will need more than the 5 flows that are available in the free edition. So I'll also give you your first month free if you sign up in the next 24 hours. You just have to use coupon code FREE5016. With no time period, that means you can completely de-risk your own bot launch. Don't forget this video will be online for a short while later, so you can get those links if you need them. Finally, just a few references to be aware of. We have extensive help docs at support.flowxo.com. We've got a lively community where you can discuss things with us and with other users at community.flowxo.com. And we've got a constructive blog at medium.com/flowxo where we build out some other use cases. So thanks for watching. I've really enjoyed building out that bot with you today. Please get signed up and tell me more about your use case. I'll be on live chat now for a little while. I'd be delighted to help you get started building out right away. I'll be running this session weekly, so feel free to come and watch again if you like. The core content won't change, but if you have a specific case, perhaps we can build that into the session. So get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. See you all soon. Hit subscribe on the YouTube channel to see our FlowXO video advent calendar.